Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Iron Man issue 1, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Carmen Carnero, colors by Nolan Woodard, and letters by Joe Caramagna. A bold new era for Iron Man begins right here courtesy of Superman writer Joshua Williamson, who shepherds old Shellhead into a new story which picks up with Tony in a cave with his box of scraps, building the original Iron Man armor. He blows his way out of the prison, but in a shocking twist is gunned down by AIM soldiers who know the High Council will be disappointed. Turns out this is not in fact Tony Stark, it's just some other random guy who tells the arriving Madam Mask that he will do better on the next run, he just needs more time. Mask doesn't give him the chance, shooting him in the face and telling her men that AIM doesn't need another armor, they need another Tony Stark. Joshua Williamson, one of my favorite writers over at DC right now, is jumping right on into new big Iron Man stories, a character I also like quite a fair bit, and already he's setting the tone for a story that seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. We're just kind of jumping right into it, and we're kind of revealing the hand already pretty early, as AIM want their own Tony Stark and will kill to get one. It's a super simple story. I'm intrigued to see if they actually end up pulling it off at some point in the storyline. And of course we've fought like alternate Tony Starks, like, you know, villains who think they are Tony Stark, or like a villain that's billed as the next Tony Stark, so I'm intrigued to see what spin Williamson is going to bring on that story. The real Iron Man, meanwhile, is busy fighting Blizzard in Los Angeles, asking the villain if he really stole a Roxxon battery pack to power his new armor. Blizzard reveals he did indeed steal the battery, trying to hit the hero with his ice beams, but Iron Man is too fast, slipping between the ice walls as he tells Blizzard that that particular battery seizes up under extreme temperatures and releases toxic levels of rapid freezing coolant into the armor, which it happens to do to Blizzard, whose suit fails and he freezes up. Tony tells him not to worry, blasting apart the ice around him and keeping Blizzard secured until the cops arrive, telling him his new tech isn't bad, he just made the mistake of stealing from the wrong person and he should be stealing from Stark. I like that this is a Tony who's telling his villains to steal from his own company, probably because he can afford the damage it will cause and it really only affects his own bottom line. I like that he's just, like, that's his way of kind of saving people, that he just wants the villains to inflict the pain on him so they don't inflict it on anyone else, he can deal with it. It's kind of cool. I quite like that approach to superheroing. It's also really neat that he's complimenting the villains on their technology, you know, it's just pretty good, but mine's still better. And I like he still punishes them, but he also kind of like encourages them a little bit, which again, that's like totally a Tony Stark thing to do. Like, yeah, of course he's gonna want another challenge sooner or later. I haven't read Iron Man in a while, just because as well he's just been getting involved in like so many other things that like it just kind of became this big tangle, and you know, he was involved like in One World Under Doom, like his book tied into that, and it was just this big mess of tangled cords basically, and I didn't particularly want to dive into any of these other books as well. But the one thing I did know is the Mysterium armor. I know that was a thing for a very long time, and I like that that's still a thing right now. It's a cool looking suit. I really like the grey metal parts mixed with the classic yellow and red. It just really suits it really well, and the artist Carmen Carnero draws the armors as heavy. They look like they weigh a ton when he's moving, and I always like that weight an artist puts on Iron Man, that yeah, he is in like a suit of armor. They are heavy, and they should be drawn like that. As Tony leaves the cops to arrest Blizzard, he heads to Malibu, where the first annual Tony Stark Award is about to be presented. Melinda May calls Tony, demanding to know where he is, since his favorite band is playing and he's not even there. She hopes when he does turn up, it's not going to be in some armor, since she promised no armors this time. Tony knows she will see him soon enough, as he turns up on the new Stark Hoverbike 3000, wowing the crowd with his new invention, which he is sure to remind people they'll be able to buy this coming Christmas. Tony does all the stuff I love Tony Stark doing. He plays to the crowd, he's flirting with random women down in the crowd, and he's just having lots of fun and being, you know, a big personality, the center of attention. Melinda quickly pulls him off stage, chiding him for his over-the-top antics, but Tony ignores her as he watches the video package that plays out on the screen, chronicling the life of Tony Stark, which really is for first-time readers. If this is their first time picking up Iron Man, it's a number one. New readers will be picking picking it up. This is good sort of jumping on point. It tells you all about his history, you know, his battles with other heroes like Captain America, and where he is in his life currently. Tony really likes the package as his new assistant Brian comes by to talk about the email he sent him about the speech. Tony has no idea who this guy is, hoping Melinda could have been his assistant, but the woman refuses to do anyone's bidding since they're in a post-Doctor Doom government, and they have tasked her with keeping Iron Man out of trouble, not fixing his emails, since that's Brian's job. So I really fell off Marvel books for a long while there, since outside of the Ultimates, nothing was really interesting me, and I really wanted to get on into the X-Men, but everything for X-Men at the moment just doesn't stick with me. It's all, you know, post-Krakoa, you know, I'm still really enjoy that Krakoa stuff, so everything after it just kind of fell flat for me. But one thing I did keep an eye on was One World Under Doom, and it's nice getting a follow-up here, as well as, you know, there's obviously still going to be following it up with this new Armageddon event that's happening that I'm going to be catching up on as well. But I like that it's seeing the ramifications of that here, you know, with Melinda May acting as a government liaison to Stark and trying to keep an eye on him. It's a bit of a neat continuity and things like that I really like. I'm a sucker for continuity. Tony doesn't want to look at any emails, instead he just wants to do it all by feel, but Melinda reminds him that he isn't actually getting the Tony Stark award. He's the one giving it away. The arriving Pepper Potts reminds Tony that that was his idea as well, catching Tony off guard since he didn't expect her to be there. Pepper is glad to see him again, hearing he's been building things again. Pepper reveals that while she's been working at the Maria Stark Foundation, Tony also had her set up the Tony Stark Grant Award, with Tony choosing the best and brightest to receive the award and grant money. Tony is curious who the winner is, and we are introduced to Adam Ware, who, being a new character, I am immediately suspicious and suspect will become a villain in this book in maybe a few issues. Tony goes and meets with Adam, remembering how he created new educational technologies, finding ways to share masterclasses with people who don't have access. Tony and Adam bond a little over their ties, as Tony notes the tie Adam is wearing is one like his father had, but their bonding is soon put on hold when Tony is shoved out onto the stage to give Adam the Tony Stark Award, citing how they are giving it to Adam for being someone who helps build a better future. All of this feels like classic Tony Stark. You know, you've got bits and pieces I've seen of Tony's outings in the last 2 years. He's been kind of missing some of this sort of stuff. It's been there in little bits, but I like that Williamson is bringing back that roguish charm and kind of making it like the forefront. You know, he doesn't let up on the partying or anything. That's all here. It's all just really great stuff. After the awards, Tony crashes the after party and hits on a caterer named Luna Lucia, who offers Tony an off-the-menu cheeseburger, knowing that's exactly what the man likes. Tony's flirting with Luna is soon put on hold when Madame Mask and AIM raid the party, taking Pepper and others hostage. Tony demands Mask drop the gun, wondering why all his ex-girlfriends are suddenly appearing now, and wondering if Emma Frost is going to appear anytime soon. Madame Mask orders Pepper to be taken, her men loading her into a truck and speeding off. Tony rushes to his hoverbike, asking Melinda what AIM is doing with Mask. But Melinda, who is in a gunfight with AIM, tells Tony that Madame Mask's team with AIM's High Council to form a new division. Tony tells her not to bother with backup as he'll deal with it, activating the hoverbike, which changes into his new Iron Man armor. So I was waiting for a new variant or new armor to drop, since Williamson doesn't disappoint in this regard. You look over at his Superman ongoing. Superman had quite a number of different costumes throughout the ongoing, and still getting them as well. We had like lead-lined suits, space suits, you know, alternate costume, classic costumes, all that sort of good stuff. And he's obviously applying it to Iron Man because that's like the premier character to do that with. And as I said before, artist Carmen Carnero draws the suits in these like this heavy industrial look, and it looks great. Like the art in the book looks fantastic. It's slick, it's colorful, and as I said, the suits are very weighty. They look like they are big and bulky, and I love that. Tony chases the AIM trucks and the soldiers fire on him as Pepper deals with a few soldiers herself, using a Black Widow stinger to take out a few of the soldiers before trying to fight Madame Mask herself. Tony ends up blowing up the truck she's on, launching Pepper towards his new armor, which catches her. Feels like an age since we've had Tony and Pepper back together again, and it just feels right. I do wonder if Williamson is going to be reigniting their romance, since Tony just got out of his marriage with Emma Frost. At least I think they did. I don't know whether they're still married or not. I wasn't keeping up with that sort of stuff. So it may be a bit too early for that sort of stuff, but I could definitely see the seeds being planted to Tony and Pepper being a thing again. I also really like that Pepper is not the usual damsel in distress. She's very clearly fighting against and winning against the AIM soldiers who kidnapped her before Tony came in and literally blew everything up. With Pepper out of harm's way, Tony wants to know what Mask and AIM are up to, and Mask will only tell him that she had a new idea and AIM is the only one who had the resources to pull it off. She thinks Tony should be proud since it's all inspired by him. Mask begins deploying some green gas around the area, and Tony pulls Pepper further away as Mask, her men, and their transport blow up. Amongst the smoking wreckage, Pepper asks why Mask would just blow herself up, and Tony knows it wasn't the real Madame Mask, it was just an LMD, pointing out the robot body burning in the flames. Tony puts the fires out, fielding a call from Melinda, who reveals in the chaos of the attack, the real Madame Mask and her men made off with Adam Ware, taking him to their lair, where Mask reveals that she kidnapped him since he was hand-picked by Tony Stark, and AIM expects great things from him. So along with the opening of this issue, we can kind of glean the fact that Mask is kidnapping people who Tony picked or knew about or, chose for a certain job because she believes, or I guess like the hypothesis is, if Tony chose them, then they are like him because he's a narcissist. So of course he would choose someone very much like him, and that's how they want to make a new Tony Stark, a new Iron Man, but one that will work for AIM. And I imagine that's what they're going to do with Adam here. They're probably going to turn him into a villain. Maybe they'll brainwash him. Hell, maybe he'll end up like hating Tony for ruining his life and putting him in this situation. Kind of a classic villain setup there, and I like that Williamson has put the signpost in for that to happen, but we'll probably go in a different direction because everyone expects it to go that way. So I'm very intrigued to what he's going to do with Adam now. Later on in New Mexico, Pepper and Melinda head to Tony's new lab, a gamma bomb bunker, the very same one that created the Hulk, something which Tony wanted specifically, as he puts it, just in case. The women head into the lab and are overcome by the loud rock and roll music, which Pepper knows means Tony is upset. Melinda screams for Tony to turn it down, but he won't, since the noise helps drown out the other noise and it helps him focus. He relents and turns the music down a touch as Pepper implores Tony to find Adam, and he is well aware, showing the woman what he has uncovered while holed up in the lab. Tony being back in the lab, making armors and technology is great. It all feels above everything else. The book is resetting Tony to a bit more of a classical Tony Stark. It's not undoing any of those recent series and what has happened to him in those series, just making him a bit more, I would say, first-time reader-friendly. Since this is an issue 1, you got to do those resets. Tony reveals that their party was not the only one hit, and several were, revealing that more people were kidnapped, people that Tony himself handpicked to win this Tony Stark award. Tony knows this is all his fault and he's going to fix it. He dons his brand new suit of armor, blasting off as he tells Pepper he's going to find all of these people by going to every single AIM HQ in the world until he finds them. So this is the book's proper new suit of armor. The other ones before it were old ones or just specific, the hoverbike suit was just like a gimmick suit. But this is the proper one he's going to be wearing for most of the ongoing, I have to imagine. And it's great. I like that it's kind of like the movie design. There's a few changes here and there, like I like the yellow feet and like the fingerless glove looks really cool. But really it's just kind of the movie costume. Tony wants Pepper to contact the families of the kidnapped people and assure them that everything is okay. He logs off the call, telling Melinda and Pepper that he's going invisible for a while but will contact them soon. Tony, however, enacts a secure channel of the suit, contacting Steve Rogers, telling him to meet at an old Illuminati meeting point. Steve thinks that's a tall order, but Tony admits that he made a mistake since a long time ago he had a new nightmare and he set contingencies up for it. Contingencies he believes that AIM now has access to. Steve relents and agrees to meet with Tony, but wants to do it in New York instead, and as Tony logs off from the call, Cap knows they have a problem, telling his new gathered team, which is the new Illuminati. I'm not exactly sure if this team has been shown yet, but it's a really cool team. It's Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm, Norman Osborn, Captain Marvel. Really cool looking team. I'm just going to dub them the new Illuminati. I don't know if they are a new team or if this is the new Avengers team or whatnot, but I really like it. It's a cool new team, and I guess they're going to have to fight Tony now, which is really intriguing. I can't wait to see what Williamson has in store for these characters. I can't wait to see what his Steve Rogers is like. I'm really looking forward to seeing how much like Superman he's going to write that character. Iron Man issue 1 felt like a return to form for the character. He's got a new armor, Pepper Potts is back in the fold, he's back to building things, and Tony is reckoning with the choices he has made in the past. It's all the makings of a classic Iron Man story. Joshua Williamson brings some much needed levity and humor back to the character with an interesting yet familiar threat, and along with Carmen Carnero's stylish artwork, I think we're in for a treat with this Iron Man ongoing, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. I'm going to give this issue an 8.5 out of 10.